Welcome to this week's Founder Files for Women Are Good Business, and we have the brilliant Nicole with us. So, Nicole, I'm going to come straight over to you and introduce yourself to everybody. Tell us a little bit about you and your business journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sam. So I'm Nicole. I'm the founder of Aura. I have been working fractionally myself for the last 5 years. And during that process, I realized that there was an opportunity here to try and help connect female founded businesses with fractional female talent. The market is, full of amazing people, but there isn't really that platform that's going to facilitate those matches. And what I really want to do, I'm really driven by the mission of supporting females in business, right through from coming out of employment into self-employment, getting that flexibility with fractional work, and then also supporting female businesses. As we know, female-led businesses are not as heavily supported as male-led businesses. They receive only 2% of VC funding. Self-employed females in the UK actually earn 43% less than men as well. So there's this huge amount of statistics that really opened my eyes as to what's the opportunity here and how can we support women in business right through from stepping out of full-time employment through to founding and scaling their own ventures. So yeah, that's kind of
I love
where
it.
I'm from.
And you quote numbers, so you found your right place because that's what we love. Is we love a number on Women Are Good Business. Just for those who are listening and watching, what does fractional mean? Because some of them might not actually understand what it means. When you say fractional, what do you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is what actually is fractional. So fractional technically means part-time, right? So what I like to say of it is like, if you are working fractionally, it means that you're working on a part-time basis with a company, but you're offering them senior leadership. So, for example, as a fractional worker, you might have a portfolio of clients. So you maybe would have 3 to 4, maybe even 5, depending on the commitment. But what it means is that you're really embedding in that business, but you're not there as a full-time employee. You're there to support the business through specific projects, maybe a specific phase of their business. It's really common, I think, in startups and scale-ups because they don't necessarily, as a business, have the resource to put across a full-time hire. So what it means is you can bring in that expertise on a part-time or for a period of time. That means that you're not having the commitments of a full-time hire. So it's really, really important in those first few years of business or where you've got a scale-up operation happening, maybe as you're a bit more, running more steady, but you want to scale up your organization. So that's where fractional really fits in.
And the problem you're trying to solve is effectively connecting those female founders who are looking for that help with those senior talent that are now going out on their own.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the feedback that I've got on both sides is, female founders really want to take on these fractional workers or fractional senior positions, but they just don't know where to find them. And there's no vetting process as such. So you can see somebody's experience, you can see what they've done, but does that actually mean that they're going to be a right fit for your business? Do they align with your values? Do they, work well based on your personality style? So there's a lot of things there that female founders are kind of saying, look, we would love to take on fractional workers, but we're just not 100% sure on how they're being vetted and how they're going to turn up essentially. So we really want to eliminate that by using specific questions and algorithms to make sure that they're going to be matched on the basis that's going to help them work together more effectively. But on the other side of that as well, it's education, resources, helping women come out of full-time employment into self-employment through fractional work and really creating a community and an ecosystem around that to support females from all stages of their journey on that self-employment route.
Fantastic. And you and I both know because we're both in it, running a business is hard, right? Like finding fractional work is really hard, but running your own business and getting it up and running is really hard. What have been like the hardest bits of your journey so far?
Yeah, I think it's something that everybody goes through, but there is a huge amount of self-doubt when you're doing this because there is no blueprint. There's nobody stood next to you going, you're doing well. You don't have appraisals. We've both come from corporate backgrounds. So there is a structure there where am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? Where do I need to go? You've always got a manager and guidance. So when you go on your own, there is no blueprint. There's no guidance or support specifically in your business. You can get mentors and coaches, and that obviously helps massively. But there is nobody else there to sort of tell you that you're doing the right thing. It has to come from within. And sometimes I think that self-doubt can be really limiting if you don't work out ways to work around it. So I think for me, that's been one of the hardest things. And I have put things in place that will help me sort of question when I'm having those moments of thinking, gosh, what am I doing? Should I just go back to work? That would be easier. But so I've put things in place now that help me deal with that. But at the same time, I think it's something that we will always kind of struggle with as you grow and scale and create new areas of your business. So I think that's probably been one of the hardest things for me.
It's funny that you say that you have those moments of doubt. I was talking to a friend who's a female founder recently. She was like, if you're not having them daily, you're not doing it right. And I was like, oh, okay, it's not just me. That's all right then. Okay. So what are those things? What are the sorts of things you put in place? Because people always love to hear kind of how other people are coping with that uncertainty and the highs and the lows.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest things for me has been really taking a step back in those moments and saying, you've been here before. This isn't new. You know, you've been here, you've got through this. And I heard a quote on LinkedIn recently that said, you know, if you ever have those moments, just take a step back and say, I can handle this. That's the only thing you need to say to yourself. So I think as simple as it sounds, that really helps. So just take yourself out of the moment, even just go for a walk and just talk to yourself about how you're feeling and tell yourself you've been there before and it was all okay. The other thing as well I've really found is finding somebody who you can talk to about it, because sharing what you're feeling and getting that out there is massive, because it takes it out of your head, it puts it into words, and actually sometimes you think, I'm just being silly, like this is ridiculous. So I think sometimes just verbalizing that, having somebody as a sounding board to talk back to you and say, well, actually, yeah, maybe, you know, don't do this, but actually this is working really well. I think all of that has been really, really helpful. So that community element and finding other people who are going through the same thing is really massive in this journey.
And I think the other thing I think is really big in the journey is celebrating the wins. So tell us a bit about some of the wins, because we're really good as women, I think, about talking about all the difficult stuff. But tell us about some of the wins you've had on that journey.
Yeah, I think the biggest wins that I've had is probably in the earlier stages of realizing that actually people were coming to me for advice. I think that I've been quite active on LinkedIn ever since I was at Amazon, all the way through my last 5 years of self-employment and building different businesses. And I think that realization that actually I can give back to people and I can help them and I can just give them, for me, what feels like fairly simple advice, because I've been through it and I've done it and I've made the mistakes and I've done the things that didn't work. Been able to actually just send somebody a LinkedIn voice note or get on a call with them and spend half an hour and actually make them realize that this is something possible that they can do, and giving them 2 or 3 tips that really helps them say, I'm gonna look into doing this. So for me, that was some of the biggest highs, has just been those little moments of interaction where I actually feel like I can help somebody and give back from my own experiences. And I think that's where Aura has come from. It's come from that point of, how do I help women? How do I help people? Because it's not at the exclusion of men. It's for women, but it's not at the exclusion of men. I would help men. So it's, you know, how do I give back to people who are watching my journey? And, you know, we don't often look inwards and think we're being inspirational, or that people are looking to us and thinking that, you know, we're doing amazing things. And I think sometimes it really holds that mirror up, and you realize that actually people are really looking in and can benefit from your advice and from your support. So that for me has been incredible.
I think that's really interesting, because I'm very similar, and just the satisfaction you get from someone having a little light bulb moment, or just having someone to talk to when they're having one of those days, is huge, isn't it? And it does give inspiration, and it's created a business for you. If I could reflect back to your corporate time to business, what are the things you learned from that transition? Because I know, having done it in the last year, it is so different. So just be really interested in kind of what are the things you could potentially share with someone who is about to take that leap.
Yeah.
Either to start their own business, or, as you say, to go and do fractional work. Like, what was your biggest learn from leaving Amazon to starting out on your own?
I think the biggest thing was realizing that you are the head of every department. So there's nobody else There's no head of marketing. There's no sales director. Like there is nobody else who is going to come and do those processes for you. And I think that if you're bootstrapping a business, which a lot of people do in the beginning, and that for anyone who doesn't understand, that basically means that you are self-funding, that you are doing it on a shoestring.
Yeah.
You don't have investment, you don't have a huge runway. So most businesses will start bootstrapped. And I think if you are bootstrapping your business, you are going to be in a position where you are doing everything. And actually, what it makes you realize very quickly is that you are not going to be good at everything. And there's going to be very quickly a realization that you're going to have strengths and weaknesses in certain areas, and that's okay. I think sometimes people make that jump. And if you've been in corporate, you've had support functions, you've had managers, you've had, a team. I had a team of 200 at one point at Amazon. So I had my people who I knew were really good at certain things, and I could pull on them for help and support and, delegation. There is none of that. So when you come into your own business, you really are in this huge pond, and it sounds intimidating. But I think what it really does is it really speeds up that learning process, because you have to get in there. You have to do all of those processes. And actually, if you can do all of those processes as you grow and scale, you'll become a better leader, because you'll know how they work, but you're not going to be an expert in that area. So just having done those processes once yourself, I think, is enough to then, hand it over to somebody else. So yeah, I say that's the biggest lesson, is that you have to wear many hats, and some of the hats are not going to look good on you, but that's okay.
I love that. That's such a good analogy, because I remember, I think 2-3 weeks in, and my laptop just stopped working. And I was like,
IT.
where's IT? I've got no one on the phone to deliver a new laptop. Yeah, it is. And it is those things you don't really think about that just kind of happen in a big corporate, aren't they? And then, yeah, it's pretty lonely when you start out on your own, isn't it? So we've talked a little bit about that advice and that journey. From a business perspective, what's the best piece of advice you would have given yourself? The thing you know now, other than, marketing, sales, IT, in terms of kind of setup, whether it's like where to go get business, like what's the thing you kind of wish you'd known, but that you know now?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things, and it sounds almost scary in the beginning, but I think it's set your processes up from the beginning and try and do things the right way. Because when I've been working fractionally, or when I've had other businesses, I had a media business for a couple of years, I went into a lot of relationships on a kind of informal basis, because I figured, well, I'm getting work and I need work, and somebody's come to me. So I'm not going to get difficult. I'm not going to lay the lay of the land down. I'm going to be flexible, and I'm going to be easy to work with. But actually, what that sometimes does is it creates a lack of respect in that relationship, and people tend to widen their scope and ask you for more, and then you feel like you can't say no because you don't want to be difficult. So what I would say is that having processes and guardrails, I guess, within your own business, and having proper contracts from the beginning is massive, and it will serve you. And it feels a little bit intimidating at first, and you can do it in the right way, that is setting your expectations clear without being difficult to work with. Just because you're setting your expectations clear and saying, this is how I work and these are my expectations, I've actually found that will gain you more respect than feeling like people think you're difficult to work with.
Yeah.
So I wish I'd known that at the beginning. I wish I'd backed myself more and not let my scope creep, because that is something that's really, really, really hard to recover from with particular clients. So
Yeah.
yeah.
100%. So, my final question is, what's next? What's your big ambition for the business? What does great look like?
Yeah. So I have huge plans for what I want the platform to be. I think that I want to start with the UK, because it's a market that I understand. It's a market that I have good connections in. So really want to build the platform and use the UK as a test basis for how these relationships are going to work. Really build the community, events, have it as a real hub for women in business, but from a fractional and a growth perspective. Like, how do we help these women grow in business? That's the main goal. I would love and have big plans for expanding into the US, because I think that that is a huge opportunity. That is very much a stretch goal for the future. It makes me slightly scared saying it, but I think I would really love for that platform to really expand beyond the boundaries of just being a UK based platform, really connect people overseas. I think we can learn a lot from America and a lot from business mindsets in America. And I would really love to see some of those relationships going cross Atlantic, to really inspire and help people grow. So that's the big gut wrenching plan.
Excellent. We love a big gut wrenching plan here on Women Are Good Business. Nicole, thank you for sharing your story with us, telling us what your mission is, sharing your knowledge and your experience. And I know you're going to get that gut wrenching goal of expanding overseas. Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me. Thank you.